Well, hello, everyone, and welcome into the TexAgs postgame wrap here on TexAgs.com, and, of course, all of our channels, including our YouTube channel, as I try to tap dance and find the copy for our good friends at TKO Equipment, your Aggie-owned and operated Texas construction and aggregate equipment dealer, founded 47 years ago by the Smith family. Aggie classes of 60, 67, 69, and 73, and continuing today with classes of 73, 98, 12, and actively involved. Headquartered in DFW with a fully stocked branch office in New Braunfels, TKO proudly serves all of Texas and has the equipment and expertise and passion for service to keep your job up and running. TKO also has your exclusive Texas screen machine dealer. Give them a call today for all your earth moving or aggregate equipment needs, or simply visit tkoequipment.com to learn more about TKO Equipment. All right, guys, we're talking about the A&M victory over Missouri, 38-17, a game that I was telling our panel, and I'll bring them on here in a second, that I don't think A&M played particularly that well. And that just shows you how selfish I have gotten as a Texas A&M insider / fan and analyst. I don't think they played that well, and they went on the road and won by 21. They've won all their road games this year. They have played phenomenal football when you talk about it from a complimentary perspective, especially what they've done in the fourth quarter. There was not one quarter that they lost. They scored 7 in the first, 7 in the second, 10 in the third, and 14 in the fourth, and they could have made it much, much more. With that, we'll bring in our panel, as we always do. Brandon Leone, Chris Taylor, and Chris Harrington joining us here on the post-game wrap. We'll start things off with the I'm pointing at the screen. Brandon Leone, your thoughts on this 38-17 victory?
Well, my thoughts are I'm extremely happy. I'm fired up. We've been doing this a long time, and Aggie fans have been waiting for this for a long time. And so before we get into the things where we kind of get analytical or critical or whatever we want to say about the game, good or bad, let's just be excited that this team is 9-0 for the first time in a really long time. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe we're 6-0 in the SEC for the first time. So you can't help but be proud of this football team, be fired up for this football team. And just the thing that I'm excited about is coming off of a bye week. You always wonder, how's the team going to perform? Is it going to throw off their rhythm? Are they going to continue to execute well and stay in the position they've been in? And this team did, right? And I agree with y'all. I don't think it was their prettiest. And that's what's crazy about this team. We just won another ranked game on the road in the SEC, and we won it pretty soundly. And all of us are thinking about the things that they left out there on the table, right? The turnover when we're driving to score. I think when we gave up that big kickoff return in the second half and then they drove down and scored. I think about the 49-second drive that they scored, when we were up 21 after that long run by Ruben. Those are the things I'm thinking about, because I'm just thinking what's going to keep us from continuing this trend. But I'll say one thing and let everybody else share their thoughts. 460 yards of offense against what's probably been the best defense we've played all year. I heard the announcer say during the game, one of 15 offenses in the country that's averaging 200 yards rushing and 200 yards passing a game. And then the last thing I'll say is 8 players caught a reception, 6 players carried the ball. And you see this balance and this depth that we have on the offensive side of the football. So I'm excited about it. I'm ready to see us back at Kyle Field next week. And what a big game. What a big win for these guys.
All right, let's go now to Chris Harrington. Chris, a game where defensively Coach Elko was not happy, and we'll talk about that. But there's still a lot to be excited about because they were still very good on third down defense. They still harassed and forced some turnovers. So your perspective from defensively first and then the offense.
Yeah, sucks giving up, having 2 running backs on the other team have over 100 yards. Just had a couple of misfits. I think Sanford had one early. York had one. There's one guy. They're there. They're the ones that need to fill, and they keep missing that. But, overall, again, a win on the road. Would have liked to see some things better. I was really impressed on Yedem just in the backfield throughout the night. That's what disrupts that zone play, and to see him just penetrating through and disrupting plays like that was really great to see. But I think the player of the game is Dalton Brooks. I mean, I think he, had that.
He had all the yards.
A lot of yards. Yeah, a lot of yards. So fake punt was awesome to see. We haven't seen any, special teams trickery this season. So it was great to see them, make that call and see Dalton make that play. And, for him to recover that fumble right there on that sack from Sanford was really awesome. See him run that back.
All right, CT, your thoughts on this one?
I'm like you. I'm a little spoiled now, and I didn't feel like we played our best game. But to echo Brandon's, his thoughts, we're 9-0, 6-0 in the conference. Haven't done that since '98. This team just keeps finding ways to win. Where on a day that I didn't think Marcel was exceptionally sharp, I thought we ran the football well in spots. And really getting a chance to sit back and hear the announcers kind of break things down. And I didn't know we had that many interchangeable parts on the offensive line, but to see that we have so many guys that step in and are able to to step up to the challenge and to be able to field voids and do things along those lines, man, it is a luxury to have an offensive line like we have. And I think you look at Ruben, big game today. I think Emmitt Smith was awesome today. He was running between the tackles, getting those tough yards. I think a couple of times that he had to put his head down, get behind his pads, and create a hole because there was a defender standing there. But ran, I thought he went and got those tough yards, kept drives extended, and I thought he played really well. But being able to take the football away, I think those things are key. And the stop that we had on fourth down after they missed the field goal, we were offsides. To come back, we turned them away. In my book, that's a turnover. And then on the kickoff, he misplays the bounce. We picked that one up. So those things are good. Defense, playing lights out, causing turnovers, making things happen on a night that, again, I just didn't think the offense was clicking on all cylinders. But again, 9-0, 6-0 in the conference. Back home for 2 at Kyle Field. I'm going to go out on a limb. I think this is just watching Indiana play today, going into Penn State, getting taken down to the wire. Oregon at Iowa. It's hard to win college football games. It's hard to win on the road. This team went out and did it 3 straight weeks. I think this is the best team in the country. I think we watched the best team in college football play at Missouri tonight, and I'm excited to see what these next 2 at Kyle are going to hold. And then, we have that one looming in Austin. So big win, great win. Always great to win on the road, things that we haven't been able to do in the past. So this team is for real. I'm excited to watch what they do the rest of the season.
CT, I want to keep it with you for a moment because I felt the same way about Marcel. But when you look at his numbers, 20 of 29, 221 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He had a couple almost. He also rushed the ball nicely. He went 5 for 29. He had a couple broken ankles on that play. So, it's just, I think because we're so scared of the what ifs that sometimes we forget to, even on an off night, the guy's having an elite night, correct? And it's not an off night, but maybe not a spectacular night. How about that?
Yeah, and I don't think it was up to his standard. And I think there are some throws that, especially that dig that Concepcion ran there, and he missed him. He undershot him. But I think one throw that we've seen him grow up. He's standing in the pocket. He has people all around him, and he hits Craver on that deep crosser. I think it was in the second quarter. But I'm a big believer. Get the ball into your playmakers' hands. Let them go make the plays for you. Getting the ball out to Concepcion, getting the ball out to Craver. I think those are very smart things to do. And let them go get the yards. So where he may not have thrown it downfield and been spectacular in that sense, he got the ball into his playmakers' hands. They went and made plays. And so that's why his numbers look the way they did. But, again, I think Marcel has great command of the offense. Those guys rally around him. They picked him up on a night that I didn't think he was as sharp. And, you look up and offense puts up 38. So that's a great luxury to have when you have an off night and you still score 38.
Leone, I'm thinking about the running game, and I'm like, the first half, I don't feel like, the numbers were there. They were not running the ball well effectively. But like they always do, that slow drip catches up to a tidal wave in the fourth quarter. They ended up rushing for more than Missouri. Missouri rushed for 201 yards. Let me check out A&M's, but it was like 228, let's say. I have the exact numbers here. They rushed for 243, excuse me. So A&M rushed for 243, while Missouri rushed for 207. I do understand that 48 of those yards are on the Dalton Brooks fake punt. But that being said, it didn't feel that way. That dam seems to always break in the fourth quarter.
Well, I think Elko said, at least I saw on Twitter, he said he challenged the team in halftime to go back out there and win the line of scrimmage. And 200 of those 248 yards came in the second half. And so they obviously made their adjustments. They answered the call. And I think ultimately they just leaned on those guys. Now let's not forget this, y'all. This Missouri front is extremely talented. That's a really, really good football team, I think, across the board on defense. And still, for us to get 400 yards, I think is impressive. It was on the road. It's a tough environment to play. They gave us their best shot, I think, in the first half. And in the second half, we dialed in and got comfortable. I want to say this, too. Reuben Owens, his continued development, the patience and the vision with which he's running. He trucked a couple dudes a few times. He's making explosive plays. I think his development with the depth behind him and the way that EJ is just so efficient when he's in the game, he's always getting the first down, even if it's a 2-yard run. He got that one around left tackle to get a first down late in the fourth quarter. Those guys are running the football well. And I think the fact that, Reed Adams wasn't in the game and we're able to interchange that depth and still just lean on those boys. I mean, that's what we did. We put those boys away and we leaned on them in those second half drives. The other thing, Nuno, that I wanted to talk about that I'm encouraged about is our continued ability to overcome adversity. I think when we're driving down there and ABR has that turnover, defense holds, had a couple penalties, but they held them to a field goal. And the very next drive, we come out and drive down their throat, have that explosive play and go back up 21. That was the only time in the game where I felt like, okay, it's a 2-possession game. We've got to respond right here. The crowd's getting back into it. And man, they just marched down the field, had an explosive play and put those boys away with the run game. So encouraged for sure at the fact that I think we've run for 200 yards, over 200 yards 6 times this year out of 9 games. So those guys are getting it done on the ground, and you got to tip your hat to that offensive line.
Harrington, something that Leone said there, I find interesting because I was standing on the left side of me right here, and there was a bunch of Missouri fans who were like, yeah, the score got out of hand, but the game was a lot closer than that score says, buddy. And I'm thinking to myself, I've heard that against Mississippi State where A&M won 31-9. I've heard that this time. I've heard that. I always hear that. Well, the part that they failed to recognize is this is what A&M has done this season. They choke you out in the fourth quarter, and then that's what happens to the score. Harrington, take it from there.
Yeah, that starts in the weight room. So these guys have been training and working hard. Moffitt's got them ready to play, and we're seeing it play out now here as we get into the final stretches of the season. Offensive line just keeps grinding, wears down the defense. You got a hole that opens up. Owens gets a couple big runs. So, yeah, I mean, it wasn't – and I tell everybody, I was watching the game with a couple buddies, and I'm like, Marcel Reed is, sneaky good. He's having a sneaky good night, and that seems to be consistent. I was really impressed by him. They've got an all-out blitz called. He audibles out of it, just throws a quick slant to, KC in the flat over there, and he runs it for a touchdown. That's maturity. Seeing that, making the call, making the throw, get the ball in your playmaker's hand, and getting it downfield. But so excited to have, that firepower out there on the outside, the playmakers, overall, we've got all the pieces, all the parts. We've done all the things through the season to, carry us through the end of this.
CT, I hate that I come to you with another negative thought, but the line of scrimmage was great, especially at halftime for the offensive line. The defensive line and really just the defense overall, they were missing some tackles. They were missing some fits. They had a lot of problems stopping a very good Missouri running game. How concerning is that for you, considering it's happened a couple of times this year?
I think, as you look at what we have coming, it can be a little alarming. But I think in the same sense, Elko has a good sense of what needs to happen and the corrections and things that need to take place. And so we know what Lenora Sellers did last year. So that is a little concerning, trying to get a 240-pound quarterback on the ground. But let's not take anything away from Missouri. I mean, those guys have performed. They've been great all season long. They have a couple of different running backs that can flat get it done. And so, those guys are on scholarship too. And, we're not going to win the line of scrimmage 100% of the time. But I have faith that Elko makes the adjustments, and we're able to create a negative play that gets the team behind the sticks. And that's what makes us so deadly and so good on third and fourth down. So a little bit concerning, but I think we make the plays when those plays are presented, and that defensive front, they settle in, those guys rotate in, they make plays, and they're able to, kind of that bend but don't break mentality. So not concerned. I think Elko and that group, they make the corrections. They get that thing shored up because we know that next week, we're going to have a quarterback that we're going to have to contend with. He's going to be tough to stop. And then we know what Texas wants to do in that last game of the season, really run the football, not only from the running back position, but also the quarterback position. So we've got our work cut out, but Elko, they'll get it solved and make it right.
All right, one more negative, and then I want to do positives to finish. The other negative is these penalties, okay? And I think they only had 6 today, which doesn't sound like a lot. Maybe I'm a little bit off. I believe it was 6. They had 8 penalties, 6 at half. So they only had 2 in the second half. So it's 2. It wasn't double digits, but I feel like the inopportune penalties on a third down here or there, you stop them on 3rd and 7, I believe it was. And then you get that penalty. Cassius Howell makes it a 3rd and 2 because I think he was offsides. And now it's a manageable distance. They've got to fix the penalties, Brandon.
No, 100%. I mean, that was my kind of final thought from a negative standpoint, if we were going to touch on it, was just, and you and CT just touched on it. One is setting the edge on the defense, right? I think Mizzou did a great job with that tight end motion earlier, pinning Cassius down. We've got to control the edge of the line of scrimmage because if they get out to our corners, we got great cover corners, but they don't tackle well. My other thing that I talked about was we got to cut down on those penalties. Those were those things that we saw in the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season that were holding us back, Nuno, and I agree with you. The encouraging note that you mentioned is that we had 6 in the first half, 2 in the second half. So it looks like they dialed in and cleaned it up a little bit. I know they'll get back into the film room. They'll get back as a team, and they're going to be talking about it's. You talked about this team in the fourth quarter. We're in the fourth quarter this season. And what are the things that are going to stop us from continuing to win these games and make a run for this thing? And I believe it's the tackling, it's the run fits, it's controlling the edge of the defense in the run game and cleaning up penalties. If we do those things and continue to take care of the football, I think this team's going to be okay. And so, yeah, I agree with you. Would love to see those penalty numbers down around 3 to 4 a game if that's something we could accomplish.
Brandon, I hate to correct you, but we're actually in the 3rd quarter because this is going to be a postseason, baby, because A&M is going to have a long run, right? That's that's hopefully what it becomes. Chris Harrington, I got a couple stats for you. I want you to respond because A&M on the road has now won 3 ranked road games. And I know people are going to say, well, those teams aren't ranked anymore. Well, A&M finished their ranking. That's what they do to teams. They go to Notre Dame and win on the road 41-40. They go to LSU and win 49-25 on the road. Now they go to Missouri and beat them 38-17. They keep doing this on the road. And there was a little other stat. The last time the Aggies won 3 ranked road games away from home in a single season was 2012. Take it from there.
Yeah, it's great. Elko and staff have put together a great group of guys. They've got a great culture. They seem to be really focused in on what they've got to do to help the team be successful. And so as long as they keep doing that, now we get to go home, a couple weeks and then, finish the regular season off in Austin. So looking forward to that. But yeah, super proud. I mean, there was last year, we made it. I think we made it mid-season, 7-0, and then we went on the road and dropped a couple. That's not the same team now. These guys have really come together. They know how to overcome adversity, how to play together on the road, and I think we've got all the pieces and parts together to we've got a championship football team here. They just need to finish out this season strong, stay healthy.
CT, this is a 9-0 football team, which means at the very least they're going to be a double-digit win team. People say, yeah, guys haven't won 10 games in forever. Well, 2020, they went 9-1. It was like a 10-win season because they won 90% of their games. This year, they're going at the very least win 10 games, and I think it's going to be more than that. Hopefully, you're going into Austin at 11-0, and hopefully you win that game and you get a chance to go to the SEC championship game because the margins are very thin in the SEC with a lot of teams with 1 loss, potentially no losses for Alabama there. So they got to keep on winning.
And you look at, and kind of to echo, something that Chris just said, this team last year, 7-1 coming down the stretch. We need just a couple of wins to get to where we want to get to. The difference in what 12 months makes on a football team, you add a couple of key pieces. This team has matured like crazy. And so, in recent years, not sure if we're sitting at this point, not sure that we're able to overcome adversity, the penalties, the turnovers, the slow starts, giving up chunk plays, things like that. But this team has matured and has grown so much. And you have that veteran leadership. I think it really does start with that offensive line and those guys that are used to playing together, starting games together. I don't think it can be overstated how important that is, just having that continuity along that front five. And so, you look at where this team was last year to where they are this year. I don't think it's any secret to why they're playing well, why they're more disciplined, why they're able to win these tough games on the road. And I think it comes from, and it starts with the head coach. I think Elko has that tough lunch pail, bring your hard hat mentality, and it just funnels down into this team. And so you have a lot of leaders, Torrey and York, they're on offense. I think Marcel Reed has stepped into a leadership role. And then you add pieces like Craver and Concepcion in their dynamic playmaking ability. And this is what you have on the field. And so you look at where we are and where we want to get to. South Carolina comes in next week, should be a winnable game. Then, Samford that we're playing, and then we, get a chance to go to Austin and finish 12-0. So something that this program has not done in a very long time. We have a lot of things still left to accomplish if we ultimately want to play in Atlanta and then, secure one of those top 4 playoff spots. So this team has a lot to play for. We're not done yet. I think that they're going to be hungry next week, returning home in front of that crowd. I think the crowd's going to be hostile just because we hadn't seen them in a month. So you bring them home, you welcome them home, you get after South Carolina, you do the things that you need to do on all 3 phases of the game. You keep people healthy and you get ready to take it 1 week at a time. You only can go 1-0, down the stretch. So excited to see what these next 3 hold, but ultimately the goal is get to Atlanta, get one of those top playoff spots and keep this thing moving.
Leone, you'd wrap us up. So this season's been about exercising some demons. The first demon was obviously Notre Dame. Another demon was going on the road and beating LSU at Baton Rouge. Another demon is going to be Lenore Sellers, because he's basically the guy who started the downward spiral for you. Oh, another demon, Auburn. You beat Auburn earlier this year after a disappointing loss on the road against a bad Auburn team last year. So now you get another opportunity. You got a couple opportunities, hopefully, here. You've got not only Lenore Sellers next week, but in a couple of weeks, Texas. So just talk about how this team has, every challenge we have thrown them, that the college football has thrown them, they have met and they have won.
Yeah, I think you just got to be fired up for the football team and the direction that they're headed. I think we need to quit thinking about demons in the past and just focus on the present. And that's what this team has done 9 times in a row, is focus on going out there and winning the one that's in front of them that they're playing in that day. And so if they continue to play the way that they've been playing, there's no doubt that they're talented enough to finish this thing off the right way. But the most important thing I think that they need to do is continue to focus on the next opponent, South Carolina. None of the other stuff matters. Get to 10-0. That will be a new thing for us, right? For the first time since, if I'm correct, 2012.
Yep.
Before that, it was a really long time ago. So, man, as fans, quit thinking about the past. Focus on the present. Do us all a favor, wake your butts up, get to Kyle Field since we have an 11 a.m. game, get there and support these guys, help them get to 10 wins, and then let's finish this thing strong. So I know Coach Elko and this staff are not they're not excited, right, about being 9-0. I think they're focused on being 10-0 and 11-0 and 12-0. And I think they just need to continue the process that they've done and go execute and win these football games. And I think it's going to be a fun rest of the season for them. So like you said, corrected me, I was talking about the regular season, but if they finish the 4th quarter of the regular season strong, we will be thinking about new things ahead and not the past. So great win tonight.
That's exactly right, my friend. A&M wins this game 38-17. I'll just give a quick recap on the touchdowns. Ashton Bethel-Roman, the 4-yard reception early. That was a great touchdown. E.J. Smith had the next one, a 1-yard touchdown. Casey Concepcion, the 48-yard touchdown. Randy Bond had a 32-yard field goal. You also had Reuben Owens, 57-yard touchdown. Unfortunately, Ahmad Hardy quickly after that had a 45-yarder, but then Reuben ended the game there with that last touchdown. A&M wins it 38-17. My thanks to CT, Chris Harrington, and Brandon Leone here on the TexAgs postgame wrap, brought to you by TKO Equipment. Tomorrow, we will do the Luchador podcast, maybe early. We'll see what time I get out of here. And then, of course, TexAgs Live on Monday morning. Thanks so much for watching, guys. We'll see everybody very soon.